All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the stream. Hope you are having a wonderful day so far. My name is Michael. Welcome back. Today is April the 7th, 2025. Thank you so much for joining me. We are back learning and teaching ourselves Python. We're going to be building our Kinter Small Business Manager project today, getting a nice working session on the project. I'm going to be building the project the entire stream. We're going to be working on it from 7 to 9:30 p.m. tonight. 2.5 hour working session on the stream on the project. Should be a good time. I'm really excited to get some features built here and work through some of our bugs we got going on. I talked to my old man and I figured out how we're going to compute these returns and how we're going to and what all we need to do and the values that we need to update. So welcome in one and all. Welcome in one and all. Appreciate you guys so much for being here. Let me know what you guys are studying this evening. Let me know what you guys are working on and how are you guys doing out there? What are you guys studying? How's your guys' classes going? How is school, if you're in school? How's work, if you're in work? Chat it up with me if you are here. Avinash! Hello, dude. Hey, Mahan. Welcome back. Get the Twitch going? All right. We got the Twitch going, too. We are live on Twitch as well. We're going to be working on the CS50X final project today. This is the Small Business Manager in Python. Welcome, everybody. It is a little bit of a warm one today in my apartment. Whew. Hopefully we don't sweat this one out. Okay, let's get started here. Let's get some tunes going to get our brain working and not distracted here. Let's get some tunes going here. What are we listening to today? Okay, I like this. Okay. Let's pull out the whiteboard. Okay, we need to figure out some things here. Okay, so right now we're working on the transactions menu and actually doing the add transaction here. So we create the entries via here. If any of them are blank, right, we want to say fail blank entry. So I'm actually going to move note out of here. Right, I want my note to be able to be blank for a transaction. Right, you can provide a blank note for a transaction. Okay, so if any of the entries are blank in the entry, then we're going to say status failed, there's a blank entry, and return false. Right, we check the date for valid, we check the item ID for valid. So we say commit transaction status label. We check item ID. So let's go to our database and see what's happening here for the check item ID. Create, check duplicate, check item ID here. So select item from inventory where ID is equal to ID fetch 1. Okay, so you have to make sure it's a valid ID in the inventory. Okay. So that's what the check ID is doing. Perfect. Then we say we check the item cost, right? Make sure it's a valid cost. Sale platform, transportation method, transportation charge. Hey Outlaw, welcome in, dude. How's it going? Thanks so much for being here, man. If you guys are part of the early crew, leave a thumbs up on the stream if you could. Really, really means a lot. Thank you guys so much for being here and joining me. Let me know what you guys are working and studying. What you guys working on? Okay, so then we check the fee, right? And then check a discount. So here we check for a duplicate transaction via these parameters. You can't sell an item twice. Right? But you can sell an item twice. Just not on the same day. So duplicate transaction. Okay, so what we're gonna have to do here though, we need to go like this. We have to go match right, so match self.transaction dot get. So we'll match this value So let's go here, let's take this out of this entries. Let's leave it in here though, let's say, so we don't need to assign it. We'll take this out like that, and then assign that here, like such. Match, then we'll say trans type, case of quote, sold or sale, right? We're gonna do this. All of this. Okay. And then one more in. Right? So if the case is a sale, we're going to do all these checks, because we don't need all these checks for doing a return. We just need a few checks. So in a sale, we'll do all of these checks on the get values. Yeah, this project isn't on GitHub yet. Not yet. It will be very, very soon. We're almost there. We're going to put in a good working session, polish up the transactions page, and get that, and the income statement, and get that done. That's our goal today. Okay, so we will. So we got to check to make sure that this is sold. So do we want to check via? So how can we check to see if this item is already sold? Okay, so we'll just have to do. We don't want to check for duplicate transaction. We want to check. So let's do this. We don't want to check for a duplicate transaction. We want to say try, and let's go ahead and say so let's say let's call check. So in my database here, I have a check item status here. Return the item status, okay, right? So we want to use this from the inventory page. So we'll say self dot inventory tab dot, or no, self dot database manager, self dot database dot check item status, right? Given the item ID, which is just item ID here, right? So this gets, so we'll say if, right, this, or we'll say item status is equal to this. We then say if item that's if item status is equal to quote inventory, we're going to obviously we're going to return false to the event, that the event failed, and then we're also going to display back to the label here for the transaction that it failed. Right, so we'll populate it that it failed. And then return false. So status failed. No, so if it's quote, if it's sold, we failed, item already sold. Item ID equals to item ID, right, already sold. And then we return false, so if sold. So else, so then we want to populate the matrix with the already sold transactions. So let's say self.populate transactions matrix via duplicate. So what this does is says, it calls if duplicate transaction, clear indexes for transaction in duplicate transaction. So we just got to get all the transactions in here. Okay, so we need to fetch So what do we fetch? We pass in duplicate transaction. So duplicate transaction gets called from here for check for duplicate. Right here. Hey, I'm making a Minesweeper solver. Sweet, dude. That sounds cool. Early check-in. Will there be a graveyard shift today? Maybe we could play some Minecraft maybe later if I'm awake. That sounds fun. Hey, wait, Tim, how's it going? Wing Hong, welcome back in, dude. If you guys are here, leave a thumbs up on the stream. I really appreciate you guys for joining. I also added a sub count to the stream here. So let me know if you guys like that addition. I think it's kind of fun. Okay. Okay, so duplicate transaction, select all from where type, date, and item equals to this. Where type equals to, quote, sold. So what we'll do is we'll just give item ID, right? And then we'll fetch all from there. Okay. So now what that does is we go so item status, if item status is sold, we're going to go dupe item transactions is equal to self dot database dot check duplicate transaction. Right, so we're back into here. Here, check duplicate transaction. Okay, that will return, and then we have to give the item ID for the duplicate transaction. And then we say item, if item transactions will populate the item transactions. So we'll populate that. And then we'll do that. It's perfect. Okay, so what does that do? Okay, so then we add the item to the transaction to the database. Refresh. If it was sale, if it's sale, so what we're doing here is we're checking to make sure the item is not in sold status. If it's sold, then we will return false. Else, we're going to convert the item into a transaction. We're going to transact the item. And then we're going to call this here, like so. So we don't need to have this anymore. Move this. No matter what, we're going to refresh the matrix. So let's take our case, these two guys, paste those there, move this back. The case is on oh shoot. The case is on here, this line. It's got to go in one. Okay, perfect. So in the case of a return, I like that addition. Yes, we're on the road, 1.7, hopefully soon. We're eating just the pretzels again. Okay, so right. So on a case of a return, convert item status, item ID, quote, inventory. We need to write this function. Okay, so what we need to do on a return, okay? On a return, we get the transaction type. If it's a transaction type is a sale, we get these entries, right? But so what entries do we want to get? Let me copy this. Come down here to the return. Paste this here. Okay. Right, we have entries is trans type. Date you have to get. Item ID you have to get. Item amount you also have to get. You do not need anything from here. So we'll say needed entries. We'll say required entries. Right, and then so that goes here. So we have non-required entries equals to a list here of these guys. And then the note is a non-required entry because we're going to customize the note. Perfect. What's wrong with my list here? Not closed. What? Comma, 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 comma. I need another. No? What am I missing here? What am I going wrong here? Am I blind? Well, this isn't working. Hey, Burger, thanks for coming in. Says it's not closed. I'm closing here. Well, what if I want to include... Oh, okay, that's why. Got it. Okay, we had to put a walrus operator here. Thanks, Burger. Okay. So if any entry in required entries is blank, then we'll say failed blank entry. Right? So we'll say failed. The entry entry blank. Oh, I can't take that entry here. Oh my, that's dumb. It won't let me take this on a local level. Failed blank entry. Return false. Okay. If any entry is not equal to a blank string, right, for entry in non-required entries, then we're going to take this as well and say status failed what kind of note should I make here? What you working on tonight, Burger? Over on Twitch. Thanks so much for joining me here. Appreciate you for following along and hanging out with me. You're awesome, man. If you're here on the YouTube, feel free to leave a thumbs up. It really helps. Thank you guys so much for joining me. We're building our CS50X final project right now. So if any entry is not equal to a blank string in non-required entries, status failed, entry where blank required. Unwanted entry. We'll say unwanted entry. Right. So So unwanted entry. So if any of the non-required entries get inputted, then you raise this error. Okay. So L in the case. Okay, so now what? Well, now we've verified that we have all of that these are all blank, right? But we need to now verify this data, right? So let's go ahead and take our date, item ID, item amount checks from up above. So date, item ID, item amount. Let's take these, bring them down here into the case of a return. Okay, it's deleted as well. Okay. Okay, cool. We check the item ID for validity. We check the sale amount for validity via the check item amount, and we check the cost, right? Tim Duncan, how's it going, man? Yeah, Harvard to Intro to Computer Science. Thanks for joining me again, Tim Duncan, 2021 on Twitch. Thank you so much for being here. You're awesome. You're awesome, my friend. If you guys aren't subscribed to the YouTube, feel free to do so. I got the sub count showing live right now. Thank you guys so much for being here. We're pushing for 1,700 here soon. Okay, so wait, we check the date that they put in, we check the ID that they put in, and we check the cost that was put in, right? And make sure that those are good, because those are the required instances, right? We're already checking the trans type via this match case here, so we don't have to check that. That's just what it is in a... Oh, Tim, is this the same Tim that's on YouTube? Is Tim on YouTube the same as Tim Duncan on Twitch? Okay, so now what? Right, we're checking the date, the item ID, and the amount for validity. So this is going to be the item return amount. So the item return amount equals to check on this item amount. Item return amount. Okay, so we check those. So then we refresh, we load inventory, and we load income statement. Perfect. And we return true on success. We return false here, invalid transaction type for any other case for the trans type. And then, right, so now what we're going to do is we need to set the custom note for the item return. Right, so we're gonna make a custom note. Or I guess we don't need to make a custom note yet. If you want, we can do that here. It's not required though, it's not really needed. Sorry, I didn't know. My bad, I thought it was two different people. I'm trolling, Tim, I'm trolling. Okay, Set the custom note for item return if needed. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add so in this one above, right, we check everything and then we get the status of the item that we're trying to sell. If that status is sold, right, because that does get items, check item status, which fetches all. If item status, return item status. What does fetch all return? Okay. If item status index 0 is equal to sold, then we're going to check for all duplicate transactions or all other transactions of this ID. If there are any in this, we're going to populate the matrix via those. Say we failed, it was already sold via this indicator here, and then return false. Else, if it's not in sold status, it's in inventory status, we can add it to transactions and make the transaction. So we're going to take all of this information so in this one we call database create income statement on the trans year. Commit transactions. Where am I getting trans year? Here on the check date. So I want this on my check date down here as well. Oh, I have it, okay. Okay, so then we're gonna say, we're almost there, guys. We're gonna say, we're gonna add the item, convert the status, and make the status be status sale transaction committed. So we'll take this. I don't want that one. I want this here. Right, return transaction committed here. So we'll put this right here. Bring this back. Bring this back. Okay, so this is going to be create return update income statement return. Say item return or sale return for that trans year. We need to, okay, so this takes in the transaction year. For the update income statement sale return for trans year. Okay, so we need to create these two functions now. The update income statement sale return Okay, we're doing create income statement here given the years. Should I do it given the years and the Okay, let's take this function, the create income statement year. Let's come down here at the bottom and let's paste here. And let's call this update income statement. Item return. Self and a list of years. Okay. We create years. Current income statement. We get all the years. Current income statement years, nice. Okay, for year in years. We get the gross sales of all of each year. What's going on here? So we're getting, for every year in the years given by the user of income statements to update, we're going to get the gross sales of that year, the sales transport, we're going to get all the information from that. Okay, so we just get all the information. If the year provided is also currently in the income statement years, we're going to update the income statement. Right, we're going to update the income statement. We're going to set so we update income statement, set gross sales equal to these values. I'm confused. So if we're why are we setting gross sales equal to whatever I'm putting in here, which is just fetching for that current year? What did I write? So we fetch gross sales given a current year from the income statement database that's already there. Right, which will just return either the value or 0. So we're adding the transaction. And then updating the income statement. Okay, so we've already added the transaction. And then we're going to refetch the gross sales. Okay, so this is pulling from the transactions. So fetch gross sales is pulling from transactions where date is like. Okay. So it's updating the lie. Okay, so it's not overriding with whatever gross sales is. It's fetching the new value after we've inserted into the transactions. We set, so on this one for years in year, we want to just do the allowances. Or wait, hold on. Let me think here. So if we're adding it to the database of transactions, we're adding this transaction where we have a date, a trans type, an item ID, and an amount, and then all these other ones are blank. Right. We then say because this is taking the item amount. Oh no. And adding it via that way. So I'm confused. So we're taking an item amount. When we're doing a return, we're reusing the item amount section. So are we calling though fetch gross sales? I'm summing item amount where date like. So I'll have to update this. We want to sum item amount where date like blank and type equals to this, and then we'll put into here quote sale. So sale goes 0. So we fetch the singular amount for the sale, and then fetch allowances. We'll do the same thing, but we'll say gross allowances in year, select somewhere from transaction, select the item amount where and time is to return, and then return this if this else 0. So we'll fetch the, okay, so now what we're doing is we can reuse our create income statement function now, because it's going to call fetch gross sales, which will filter out the allowance sales, or transactions I mean, and fetch allowances on its own. So let's come here to our transactions tab, and let's just call this same function here, create income statement, like that, via the trans year. And then we convert item status, item ID. So now we have to do one last thing, is up here we have can, we'll just delete this. So then where am I doing convert item status sold here? So then I'll take this, copy it, bring this down, paste it there, bring this in for item status inventory, item ID, we say if self.db execute update status quote inventory, where ID is equal to this ID commit. There we go. So then we'll go what is it called? Convert item status inventory, which is the item ID passed in. Okay, boom. Okay, so the thing is though, okay, let's try this out now. Let's see what happens. Okay, let's run our program. Okay, no errors, so we're good there. Let's add an item to our inventory here. 2025-04-07. Description, address, size, medium, cost, 10. Let's add in one for 2024. On, let's say, 12/20, Christmas. Add. Okay, so we have two items here. Let's go ahead and transact item number 1 as a sale. Date 2025-04-07. Item ID number 1. Item amount 25. So if I try to transact this, it won't work. Failed blank entry. Instagram, failed blank entry. Shipping, failed blank entry. 5. Failed blank entry. 0. Failed blank entry and 0. Now this should work. There it is. Okay, so now we have our sale in here logged for this item. So now in my income statement now I have that sale made here. Okay. So then if I transact this same item as a return, what happens? If I try this, it shouldn't let me though, right? Unwanted entry, so now I'm going to delete this. Unwanted. 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 Unwanted, and now I should be able to delete this, and now it should work. Okay, we have an error here. Okay, unbound local error, cannot access item amount where it's not associated with the value. Oh, because we changed it to item return amount. So item return amount needs to just go back to item amount. Like that. Okay, so now if we clear this, run our app. Okay, if we go to income statement, it generated an income statement for this dress, but it's just zeroed. Okay, so let's try to return this transaction then. Return 2025-04-07. Item ID number 1. Amount we're returning $25. $30 for the transaction total. Commit. Okay, so it's trying to on line 560 of load all transactions matrix. Right, it's trying to convert those to if value error. It's trying to convert these to ints. Right, via that transaction index. So I want it to be zeros. So here, let's go back to our transactions tab. In the add here for a return, we are adding in blanks, right? For these guys. So then what we'll go ahead and do is we'll say this. We'll get our indexes here. We'll say try except for value error. We're going to transaction at index, right, is equal to 0. Okay, so now if I go here, run, catching classes that do not hear from base exception is not allowed. Huh. Hey Darko, how's it going, man? Thanks so much for joining me tonight. How you doing? Appreciate you being here. So that didn't work, right? So we tried to catch the value error here on this cents to dollars. Oh, except for a value error. Let's try that. Okay, yeah, there we go. So now I have a return that's in there. For a transaction total of 30. Then on my income statement, I have an allowance of 30 here, but I still have a cost of goods sold as 10. Right? So that needs to go away. So in the DB manager class, And then are we converting that item to sold back into available? Yeah, now it's available again. So then we just need to make sure this cost of goods sold is being taken out on the return, right? We added in the allowance right here. We added in the allowance, and now we need to reduce it. We need to take out this cost of goods sold. Okay, so how can we do that? Let's see here. We need to go to our DB Manager class on the Create Income Statement. We're giving the years, and we're setting cost of goods sold equals to fetch cost of goods sold. So then the fetch cost of goods sold right, we'll go and select item ID from transactions where date is like this. If not, item date year sold return 0. Item IDs. Sum the cost from inventory where ID in placeholder. So we're summing the cost of the inventory where ID is a part of these item IDs here, right? Which are all the item IDs sold in that year. Okay, so we'll go like this actually. This is what we'll do. So we'll fetch cost of goods sold will be we'll get all the item IDs for we'll get all the item IDs for transactions within the given year, right? We'll get the sum the cost where ID in placeholder and type equals to quote sale equals to sale, right? Oh, this is from inventory. Okay, so this word date, like, so hard, not this, not here then. Word date, okay, so we get the total of these item numbers, the cost of those. We then say item ID returned, right, in year is equal to self.db.execute. We're going to take this entire thing here, select item ID from transactions where date like this, and type equals to this. And we'll say here is going to be sale, right? And we fetch all of those. And we say item ID returned in that given year is this, where like this, and type equals to question mark, and we'll say here is quote return in the transactions. We'll fetch all. We'll take all of this, bring it down here, bring this back. Okay, if not item ID returned in that year, item IDs returned item IDs sold okay, item IDs returned equals this, and then we cost of goods returned in the year, and then we return if cost of goods in year, right, and cost of goods returned in year, return cost of goods sold in year less cost of goods returned in the year. Return if else so we say if not cost of goods sold in a year, cost of goods sold in a year is equal to 0, right? We then say if cost of goods sold, return cost of goods sold less cost of goods returned in that year. So if not any, then we'll set this to 0. If there is a cost of goods sold in that year, so we select, so to fetch the cost of goods sold, what we're doing is we're getting all of the item IDs that were sold in the given year and all of the item IDs that were returned in the given year. Okay, we are then so we're getting all the IDs that were sold in the year. If there are none, we return 0. Right, cost of goods sold is 0. Else we have item IDs that were sold, so we go ahead and get the cost of all of those items that were sold. We then get all the cost of the items that were returned within the given calendar year. If not, items ID, right, item ID is equal to 0. Else this, and then we say return cost of goods sold in year less cost of goods returned. Right? Let me take this function and see what the almighty orb has to say about it. I wrote a function to universally, at least how you spell universally, I don't know, compute the cost of goods sold in a given year via a SQL query to the transactions database for items that were sold, then to the inventory for the cost of those items. I then am doing the same thing for returns in the given year and computing the difference between sold minus year and returning the value. Nice. This function is solid in logic. Sweet. It's querying sold items and return items for a given year, getting their costs from the inventory, then returning the net cost of goods sold. But there's one small bug in a couple places we can tighten things up. The main issue: if there are no returns, you set item ID in return year equal to 0. But then you still try to subtract, which hasn't been defined. Oh. If not item ID returned in the year. Okay, so if not item ID returned in year. So if there's no items returned, we set cost of goods returned in year to 0. This version is very close to complete. Just one tiny important improvement still needs handling. None values returned from some cost queries. If your query doesn't find matching IDs, some costs will return none, not 0. This will make your subtraction return minus 0, which throws a type error. If not item ID sold in year, I am returning 0 because there were no sales, so no need to go further, right? Yep, you're on. So does that fix my error, the bug? Almost, your super was still 120 edge case. If there were sales but the items aren't found in the inventory table, maybe the data is missing or it's deleted, then this line would return none. You'd end up doing none minus cost of goods sold. We'll throw a type error. Update both of these lines to this or 0. Okay. Cost of goods returned. Right, or 0. Right. Sweet. Okay, so now I think that solves our problem here. So let's go ahead and try it out now. Okay, let's go ahead and quit the current program. Let's go ahead and delete this. And let's go ahead and run here. Did that auto update? Cost of goods sold is still $10 for a return. So let's go ahead and delete the database currently. And then delete, let's go here, run. Here we go. Okay, let's add an inventory item, 2025-0407. Test, size medium, cost is 10. Add the item. Boom, okay, let's go ahead and sell the item. sale, 2025-04-07, 1, amount, 25, platform, Instagram, shipping, 500, commit. There it is. Now let's go to the income statement. There it is. Okay, so there is our transaction for this, our income statement for this given year. Via cost of goods sold is 10 now, right? For a total net income of 20. So let me go ahead and now return this item. Right, it should say sold now here, perfect. Now let's return it. Unwanted entries, so I need to delete these entries. Okay, and let's return this item for $30, right? Because that's how much the user paid in our income statement, in our transaction here, $30 for this transaction. All right, ready? Commit. All right, there's the return. It got returned. And then we say income statement. Yes! Woohoo! Yes! Woo! Yes! All right, you guys. Now, so we've successfully fixed the entire income statement now. So that did it. So at least for the most general. Now there are probably some edge cases, such as like we can't return an item that was a date in the past or something that was sold on. But those are some edge cases that we don't really need to super focus on right now. We're just kind of get the main chunks of things working. But yeah, so now what we have going on is we were able to reuse our income statement function here to update via the allowances, and we updated this fetch allowances function here to return allowances where the date is like and the type is return, right? So when we're fetching gross sales, we're fetching the same category, the item amount, but we're fetching where the date is like the year and the type is a type of sale, right? So we're distinguishing between these two queries on the same column for via sale type or return type, because that's where we're just reusing the same entry point for returning an item versus selling an item. So that's how we're distinguishing it. And then what we did is we wrote this fetch cost of goods sold. So before we were just fetching from the inventory and doing this, right here alone. But now what we're doing is we had to alter this to fetch the cost of right? Because when we return an item, we have to credit the cost of goods sold. Because when we sell an item, we debit the cost of goods sold, which increases the COGS because you sold that item. It's no longer in inventory. It is sold. The asset has left your balance sheet. So this is all double entry accounting, if you guys are familiar with double entry accounting and ledgers and stuff like that. So this is like what they teach in college accounting. So, and then what you do is you debit the cost of goods sold when you sell an item, because it was a cost that was now of an item that was sold. And now when you return it, you have to then credit that amount. So what's going on here is when we sold this item for $25 with a $5 transportation charge for a total transaction charge of $30, that's how much we charged the user on the invoice, or the customer on an invoice, right? So they paid us $30. Now we went ahead and returned that item on the same day, right? Just, whatever. And we had the item amount as 30 for that transaction amount, or right, that return amount. And then that computes all the way over here. So that's where we are reusing the item amount column here to put in the sticker price, but also the return price. So I might change this to say sticker / return amount, right? Or something more general or along those lines. And so this also has types. So we can also search for all the types of where we have sales. Okay, so we do have a bug here with this function we got to fix. So we'll fix that. Okay, so then And right, so we made this return for $30 for this item number 1. So in our income statement for 2025, where this return was made, right, we go ahead and compute a return of an allowance of $30 right there. And that balances out our net income to 0 for that return. Woo! Yeah, baby. Oh, I was not looking forward to fixing those slight, functionality changes. Seemed like a lot of work. It was a lot of work, but we banged it out in an hour and 20 minutes here. Ha ha ha. Hey Edwards, how's it going, dude? Welcome in. Hey Go Guppy, thanks so much for coming in on Twitch and hanging out with me here. Yeah, I'm building my CS50X 2025 final project completely in Python using Python to Kinter and various other plugins and libraries. And mainly just a lot of code from scratch here, completely from scratch on my own here. All right. So now let's go ahead, let's try to do something funny and let's add in an item for 2025. And then let's transact that item, right, in 2025. So we sold that for 25 bucks, let's say. Instagram shipping 500 commit. Oh, sale type commit. There we go. So now we sold item number 2, right? So that being said, we sold item number 2. So let's try to return item number 2 in 2026. So, right, you sold item number 2 in 2025. We still have that 30 allowance from the return of item number 1, right? But we now have a gross sale of $50 because we still made $50 worth of sales, right? We have a sale here and a sale here. But that first one is being like basically wiped out by the allowance, right? It's being accounted for in the allowances. So what I can do here is I can set a custom note to be returned for item number ID 1, right? But it's already seen right there. So now let's go ahead and transact a return for this item in 2026. So what should happen is that it should not impact 2025's income statement at all. It should remain. It will now populate a 2026 income statement with everything blank except for you'll have an allowance debit of $25 or $30, I'm sorry. And then it'll give you a negative net income for 2026. So if I go ahead and erase all of these values that are not required, and then say this was $30 to cancel out that total transaction for item number 2, let's commit this for 2026. Invalid little int base 10 quote shipping. Okay, so it's trying to so we made the return there. Populate matrix via search. Why is it trying to convert quote shipping? Zero. So then the income statement, 2026, allowance 30, negative 30. Perfect. Look at that. Woo! You guys got to leave a thumbs up for that one. If you guys are new here, thanks so much for following along. Please subscribe if you guys wouldn't mind. Appreciate you guys joining me so much. That kind of rounds out a majority of our income statement here. We just have some slight bugs here in the terminal I'm getting via Invalid literal int for base 10 quote shipping. Why is it trying to... Boom! 3 big booms. I'm sorry about your dead brother, Mikey. Boom! Hate that meme. That meme is so funny. Okay, and then this got returned back to inventory status. So zero, zero, zero. So line 598 of populate transaction via search got index error here. So what about populate via duplicate? I'm doing, okay, so I need to take these indexes. That's fine. They're calling transaction index. If found transactions, populate transactions matrix via duplicate via search. Okay, let me run here. Okay, no errors. Let me add an item, 2026-0, 2025-04-07. Tester, add it. Let's transact this item. Sale 2025 04-07. Item ID number 1. Item amount 25. Instagram shipping 500 commit. Why did it say status refresh there? Uh-oh. That shouldn't be happening. Shoot. So in transactions, if it's sold, else add to database. So why did that continually run? This sold. Sale. So that's going through still, which it shouldn't be, right? So if Okay, so let me go ahead and go print item status here. Let's see what happens. Sale date 2025-04-07-1-25. Instagram shipping 500. Quote sold. Okay, so that's why. Go to transactions, we gotta go like this. So now if we go here, quit, run, 2025-04-07 1-25, Instagram shipping 500, commit. Okay, so status none. So populate via duplicate. So this errored out here. So we're trying to convert quotations into okay, so if you make a sale, if it's already sold, check for duplicate transaction. We're trying to convert right now we're trying to convert a string, a blank string, into an int on populate transactions via duplicate on item number 1, which will be here. Line 621. Okay, so let's go back here. Let's remove this. Line 621. Here. If transaction at index equals a blank string, so we're going to print transaction index here. Now if we run, let's transact item number 1. Item amount 25. Instagram shipping 500. Invalid literal for base 10. Okay, so it tried to convert $25 5 0 0 30. Oh, it's trying to convert the note. So this is 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So in the transactions tab, not 10. Okay, so now transactions tab, 0 1 2 3 4 4 7 4 7 8 9 10. Four, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it was 10 because it starts with the ID as 0 index. And then we need to say so we need to not accept blank values then, basically, because it's trying to convert transportation amount and stuff on the returns. So on the returns, when we transact a return, then right here, we're gonna set sale platform equals to quote NA, transportation method equals to quote NA, transportation charge is also going to be equal to NA, and a fee that'll be applied. Then we set note equal to return item ID equals item ID. Return item, okay? Perfect. So now let's go ahead, quit this. So fee is going to be 0, discount is going to be 0. Okay, let's go here to database. Let's clear the database. Let's go to our business, delete the years. Let's run @pi here. Let's add an item, 2025-04-07, description test, size medium, cost 10. Add that item, there it is. Let's transact that item, sale, date 2025-04-07, ID number 1, 25, Instagram, shipping 500. Let's commit the transaction. There it is in our income statement for $20 of net income. 25 plus 5 minus 10 equals 20. We then will go ahead and compute a return for this item for $30 to include that 5. 0 these, commit, there it is. It has return transaction label for ID number 1. Right? And then our income statement should be updated. That got put NA for those values there. Income statement has now less $10 of cost of good. So now let's go ahead and sell this item again. Let's say we sold it for 25 on today. Instagram, shipping, 500, commit. There it is, sold. Have it refresh. Okay, income statement. There it is, it sold again. We still have that $30 of allowance from the first return, which cancels out that first sale, leaving us with $30 of net income from this transaction here. Now let's go ahead and try to commit it again. This should fail. Quote NA. Zero, 1, 2. Zero, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's trying to convert the NA now. So why is it trying to convert the NA on this load here? Populate via duplicate. I'm going to print transaction index here. Run. Let's transact item number 1 again. It's already sold here. Item ID number 1, item amount 25. Shipping 500. Commit. Okay, so we got some prints here. Okay, 25. So it's trying to convert the 25, the 5, the 0, the 0, the 30, and then an NA. What? Why is it trying to convert NA? Oh, transportation charge is NA. Why is transportation charge NA? Okay, so now that should work. So let's go ahead and clear out our database. I think that'll take care of our bugs. So if I go here and get rid of this, right here. Okay, let's add, ooh, not clear. Okay, let's add in 2025-0407, test, size medium, 10. Add this item, there it is. Okay, then let's go transactions, sale, 2025-0407, number 1, 25, Instagram, shipping, 500, commit. Now if we try to refresh, commit this again, item failed, already sold. There it is. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So if I change the amount here, already sold. Perfect. So now let's return this item for $30. 0. Let's just exit these. Commit that. There it is. And allowance, perfect. And then let's try to sell it. Oh, let's try to return it again. Ooh, so you can double return. Crap. So here we say we check the item status. If it's returned, it's in inventory. So we're going to take this here, copy it, bring it down here. Paste it above here. Right. And then put an else statement here. So we'll say item status, get item status via the ID. If the status is inventory, right, we're going to check duplicate transactions of that item ID. Right, populate all the duplicate transactions for that item ID and populate the item transactions already unsold. In inventory. Command refresh matrix. They're called refresh, which will refresh. So if the value is true. So we call load all on this value. So let me go to my inventory and go to the refresh. If I Okay, so if we quit this now, clear out our database, right? Run appy. Hey Armando, how long has it been that you've been coding, and would you say you can build a whole project with minimal help? Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing right now. Been coding for about 10 months, and I build all my projects from scratch. So far. So, what are we doing here? We're gonna appy? Okay. We're gonna try to return the same item twice. Description, test, medium, 10. Let's add the item. It says item. Then we go transactions. Let's try to sell it. Let's return it, or let's try to sell it again. Right, it's already there. Okay, let's try to return it. There's the return. There it is. Now let's try to return it again. Okay, I'm trying to convert on line 627 a blank string to an integer via here. What am I trying to convert? It's obviously this guy here after the 30. Right? So we're trying to get this guy, okay. Why is it trying to convert our note into an integer for sale? Okay, let's just do this then. Let's just say this. For transaction in, we'll turn it to a list. For value, we'll go like this. For val in transaction, if is instance val int, right? Then we're going to convert val equals cents to dollars val, and then we'll do that rather than doing it by index. So let's get rid of that. Let's just use is instance. So this is transactions, this transaction there. Okay, so now if we clear, run, there, transactions, there's our inventory. Let's try to convert this again to another return. A date, 2025-04-07, item ID number 1, amount 30. Right, we want to try to return this again. Commit, failed, item ID is in inventory, perfect. But it didn't convert those values to integer. Huh. So that's only bringing up the 1, not the sale 2. So let's look here. So the item ID so hey Oliver. In those 10 months you learned, well, no, not necessarily. I would say I've got a very basic understanding of HTML and CSS and JavaScript. Very, very basic, especially for JavaScript. But I've been really trying to develop a mastery in Python. I'm not trying to get a surface level understanding of multiple languages. I'm just trying to really gain a mastery and really, really solid understanding to where I can build almost anything in one. And then I feel like that'll expand out into other avenues from there. So mainly just Python, pretty much. Python, HTML, CSS, Flask, a little bit of JavaScript, a little bit of C, but this is where my bread and butter is here. Okay, so on the case of a return, if item status of the item you're trying to return is already in inventory, we're going to get duplicate transactions via this item ID. So in the database, we have fetch duplicate transactions. Here, via an item ID, where item ID is fetch all. So if populate via duplicate item transactions, populate via duplicate for transaction in duplicate transactions, print them both. So why is this not returning back both of these transactions? Right, it's just refreshing this. So I'm calling load all transactions into matrix. If all transactions. I don't get why that's not populating all of the values. So here we have multiple transactions for an item ID number 1. Sale 2025-04-07, ID number 1, 25. Instagram shipping 000.5, commit. We sold it. Now if I refresh, commit, there it is, the most recent one. So then why am I not getting all of them? Populate via duplicate. So let's go print duplicate transaction, and then let's run, see what we get in our output. In transactions, sale 2025-04-07, ID number 1, 25, shipping. Okay, so there's all the transactions. Why is it only printing 1? We clear the matrix for transaction in duplicate transaction. Oh. We need to insert the transaction into the matrix tree within the loop of the transaction after we convert all the indexes, and then do the same thing. That one's fine. So now if we run, quit, @pi, here, transactions, let's sell number, date 2025, 0407, ID number 1, $25. Instagram, shipping 500, commit, ID failed, and it pulled all three of these back up. Right, you didn't see it there visually, but that's what it did. Okay, and so then if we try to, let's go ahead and make a sale for another item here. Let's go add in a 2025-0407, test 2, size medium, cost another $10. Add. Let's sell item number 2. Commit. There it is. Okay, let's try to sell it again. Boom. Brought back up. Let's try to sell item number 1. Commit. There's all the item number 1 transactions. Perfect. Yes! Woohoo! Oh! Tim, it's going good. We are doing good here. Thank you guys so much for joining me and hanging out. I really appreciate you guys for joining me. Let me know what's going on with you guys. What are you guys studying tonight? If you guys are new here, consider throwing a thumbs up and a subscribe. I really, really appreciate you guys joining me here on YouTube. I'm streaming to YouTube and Twitch right now. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Really, really appreciate you guys. Okay, so now we are appropriately pulling back up all the menu items for already sold items. So, right, if we try to sell an item that's already sold, it'll pull up all the transactions. And if we try to return an item that's already returned, it'll pull up a transaction. So let's go ahead and return this item, number 1, that is already sold, right? Commit, or here, return, commit, there it is. And then let's go commit again, and boom, it pulled it back up. And there's the most recent entry right there. Right. Oh, did Florida lose? Mahan says 2 hours working on my project, did like 15 minutes of actual work. Oh, that's all right, Mahan. You know, sometimes I have those days too, where I just talk through my stuff, and then I'm able to formulate my ideas over the course of a few days, talking through with you guys and by myself, and then I'm able to come in here and put a good 2 hours straight of just straight coding. I worked and debugged and I was coding this entire 2 hours here, working at implementing these features. So, you know, it definitely just, you know, those days of learning and thinking about the project and not actually implementing are key, in my opinion. It really helps you to actually be able to implement when push comes to shove. But yeah, Florida won, Houston lost. My dad was rooting for Houston, I think, so he might be kind of bummed. Florida won, huh? Florida. All right, that's awesome. Okay, so this is what we got, guys. So let's go ahead and clear out the database and let's show you what our finalized transactions tab here. And let's clear out the years, right? So if you go ahead and run, boom, here's our program, right? Mike, if I was to take the route you took, mostly focusing on Python, you think that's good enough to get a job, or you gotta have full stack? See, I'm not the best to ask about this kind of things. I'm really kind of weary to give advice about employment in computer science, as I have no experience at all doing something. It would be like me giving, you know, advice on, you know, childbirth, and when I actually don't give birth child. So, you know, it's my opinion is completely irrelevant regarding that. But in terms of just regular job recruitment and things, I think gaining new skills in fields like computer science, mathematics, technical writing, business, you know, those are universal skills that can really translate to a lot of different fields. So I don't think it's a waste of time to learn Python. If I've been wasting my time, then I've been wasting my time for the past year, wasting my life learning, spending countless hundreds of hours, near over 500 hours so far, learning and streaming my progress so far on these projects and study materials and books. Then it is a waste of time. But in my opinion, I don't think it is. I think you need to find your own kind of value in it. If you're mainly just seeking value out of like employment at the end of the path, then I really think that you'll burn out in this field. Math and science is hard enough as it is and competitive enough as it is. And so if you actually don't have like a true passion for what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, then you're gonna quit after a few years. And so it's just like the stakeholder demands are too high for building products and churning out things, and the pace just keeps going. And so unfortunately, so I really would try to just avoid the end goal of receiving employment and just focusing on the actual journey aspect about improving your skills as an individual, as a candidate. And so I do have a degree in biology and human biology and chemistry. So I am able to leverage that as well as programming skills and maybe like bioinformatics or even into software development if I have enough projects and things to display and showcase my skills. Like this project here is going to be a big feature on my resume. But I'm kind of rambling here, but I just try to focus on skills and improving yourself as a person and as a candidate rather than a job at the end of the tunnel, because the market's already hard enough. So if you put that additional stress on yourself, I think it might do more harm than good. Losing the national championship or leading by one with under 1 minute left is something you won't forget for the rest of your life. Oh, yeah. So is not getting a rebound in like 10 minutes, like the center of Duke, right? That guy might have just killed his NBA prospects with that last 10-minute performance. A lot of those Duke freshmen looked pretty razzled those last few minutes. They could not handle the heat. What do you think, Tim? Do you like watching ball? Okay, so we can go ahead and add in an item. Let's go ahead and add in an item for 2024-01-01. Let's say that this is a test item, right? Size is a medium for this guy, and let's say it costs us $10. We add that item to our inventory, and there it is. We then can generate expenses. We don't need to worry about that. Everything works for expenses as it should. We then can populate transactions for these inventory items. So I can take a sale of 2024. Let's say I sold this item in 2024-0. Let's say 407. Item ID 1. Item amount, I sold it for $25. Instagram shipping was $5, 00, and a sale. There it is. So I sold that item back in 2024. Cool. There generates an income statement for 2024. Let's say I go ahead and return this item for $30, the entire transaction invoice total. Get out these unnecessary entries and return this item. Boom. There's the return in 2024. As you can see, the cost of goods sold is now credited back down the proportional amount of $10, and the allowance is debited or raised an amount of $30 via the return transaction, right? We then, let's go ahead and now try to return that same item. Boom, failed. Item ID is already in inventory, not allowed. Perfect. All right, it repopulates your matrix with all of the item ID 1 transactions. We only have item ID 1 transactions currently in here, so that's all you're seeing. But when I press this and commit a duplicate, it refreshes and populates all of the current transactions. We then will go ahead and let's say we try to sell this item in 2025, right? So if you guys remember, we sold and returned this item in 2024, but we still have the item in our inventory via its status here. So we can still sell it in 2025, the future. So let's go ahead and sell this item for $25 with the Instagram. We sold it, right? And we have shipping. Like let's say we crossed over into a new calendar year. We commit this transaction. There's the sale. and we go to income statement, and there is the income statement populated for 2025 with a cost of goods sold of $10. Now, if I go ahead and return this item back into the inventory with a $30 price as the entire sticker invoice total, I clear out all the unnecessary entries and commit this return. There it is, returned in 2025, and the income statement for 2025 is adjusted for its cost of goods sold down, and its allowances is debited up by the invoice total, and we have a total net income which is zeroed out because we bought and returned this item and bought and returned this item in 2024 and 2025, which cancels out, right? The 25 plus 5 less 30 equals 0. 25 plus 5 less 30 equals 0. Woo-hoo! Yes! Yeah, let's go. That is so good. That is so cool! Oh, all right. So that was a whole overhaul of the transactions, right? So we had the working transactions for sales, but we wanted to implement this additional feature for allowing for returns and then having those populate on the allowances section of the income statement. And that is what's happening, and it's dynamically happening across the year that it's taking place on, and will dynamically also account for the transition into new years in the future, right? We bought the item in 2024 and returned it again in 2024, meaning that it was available to us in 2025 to sell. We sold it and then returned it again in 2025. You know, this item keeps getting bought and returned, bought and returned. What are you going to do, right? Sometimes it happens, but we got to make sure that we can do that, and there it is. So now let's go ahead and add in a new item here. Let's say we bought this item in 2025-04-07, and let's add that item. There it is, right? It can have the same name because it has a different date purchased, and it has a unique ID. Right, let's go ahead and transact this item as a sale for this year. So right now, currently, we have no net income because we bought and returned that one item in 2025. Now we're going to sell item number 2 in 2025 to give us an increased net income or increased gross sales for 2025. So let's sell this item for $25 on Instagram. Shipping charge is $500, and let's commit it. There it is. Boom. The sale is committed, and our income statement is updated for $50 in gross sales, $10 of sales transport, $30 in allowances, for a total net income of $30 because we bought and sold this item number 1 in we sold and returned this item number 1, and then we sold item number 2. So now if we go ahead, right? And so it might seem a little bit interesting to not reduce gross sales, but your gross sales, you made the sale, right? Just because you made a return doesn't mean you remove the sale. You just account for the return within the allowances, right? So we made the sale of $25 with a $5 transportation charge, a shipping charge, but then that item was returned. So we sum those together and remove it in the allowances section rather than reducing our gross sales. We want to keep track of how many sales we made, right? Just because we returned an item, that doesn't negate a sale. That just returns the item back into our inventory, and we we debit the allowances rather than crediting gross sales. So that's the whole point of double entry accounting, is that we're accounting for returns separately from our gross sales, and so we can see our total returns rather than having them baked into a reduction of gross sales. It's its own separate category, which is crediting gross sales downwards through this, mathematical chain. So really, really cool. Hey, Alfonso, thanks for coming in, dude. Appreciate you for joining me. Yeah, it's really coming along, huh? Yeah, so we currently transitioned it from a CLI environment. It was getting really, really difficult to scale the project and move it forward. And so then we went ahead and transitioned into a GUI environment where we'll hopefully have a executable Python file to be able to have more user interaction and fluidity, and better control of inputs and things like that. So it's coming along really nicely, and that wraps up now the income statement portion of the project. So woo! Boom, 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 boom. We are done with the income statement now. It will appropriately accept expenses according to the calendar year that expense was generated via its date. It will then also appropriately populate transactions for sold items in the gross sales, the charges for those items for shipping and the transportations, any fees and discounts for those sale transactions, and then populating automatically cost of goods sold for those items, gross margin, and whatnot. And then we are also able to now add in a return option for specific items, and then return and cancel out our transactions basically via an allowances section via double entry accounting, where we can debit the allowances or increase allowances, which will reduce our gross sales or our net income in total. We don't want to reduce the sale because the sale still happened, but the sale was just returned, or the item was returned back to us. So we just have to negate that somehow, and that's how we're capturing it there. So really, really awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here and joining me this evening. We did a good solid 2 hours and 15 minutes of solid coding, just a good coding session on the project here. I really wanted to get the 2 hours that was needed to just sit down and complete this return feature. That was something that we needed to fix, and then also have the allowances be accounted for as well. So now we are able to move forward with the last, I'd say 10-15% of our project now, which is going to be the balance sheet and the settings section. So the settings section will be really, really easy. It'll just basically allow the user to add in custom sizing. So right now we're only allowing for XS through extra large. And so I'm going to convert this into a combo box or a drop-down menu, so you could select from the pre-selected and know what sizes are available in the current database. But in the settings here, right, that's where I'll have the actual user to be able to insert their own custom sizing options or parameters and override our current ones, because all that the sizing is just custom to whatever their business is tailored to, and you can dynamically just search for items via the sizes here. And so it'll automatically, it's automatically pulling these sizing options from our business info here, right? So in my, I currently don't have it. I have it in the set size function, but we're going to have to put the sizes within this business info JSON information here, or within the business class rather, right? That's where we'll have to put it as in here as sizes, as an instance variable of the business class, and then that's where we'll have to dynamically pull from in the income inventory tab. So right now, as you guys can see, the sizes are being set via the set size check size function, which is in my auxiliary functions right here. So it's hard coded in there. So I'll need to reference the instance variable associated with the business class itself, and then that way the user can go into the settings menu themselves and dynamically update their own settings for their own business or sizing, sorry. And that will be a similar process for for the expenses categories and methods. As you guys can see, I already have those in here, right? Categories and methods for the expense. So that's where we're pulling this information from. And then also the sale platforms and transportation methods. So those are also needing to be dynamically updated by the user for their custom needs. Like they're not every business is going to sell on Instagram or Depop or whatever. They might sell, just on Shopify or in person or whatever, like at a local, at like the garage sale or at the flea market or whatever. So they might have different sale platforms which have different fees associated with them and whatnot. So that's what's happening there. But anywho, I really, really appreciate you guys joining me here. We are going. So sorry. Before I end, I will say that the balance sheet section, if you guys are unfamiliar with what a balance sheet is that it will report basically the overall health or balance out all of the remaining assets and everything of the business. So you have transactions which generates net income and things like that, but you have to also account for, you have current inventory on hand that has value, right? That is considered an asset. So the balance sheet, if you guys have taken any accounting courses, whether it be in high school or college, highly suggest you guys look into some accounting, just basic accounting principles, especially if you're interested in entrepreneurship or just financial literacy. It just really, really helps to, understand what these, business jargon with revenues are, especially if you're dealing with like stocks and stuff too. So, if you have owner, so you have the balance sheet, right, which consists of something called ALOE, ALOE, right? And so this is assets plus liabilities equals to owner's equity, right? And so what this means, right, is if you have cash, if you have remaining inventory, right, you have, depreciated equipment, right? I'm not really handling depreciation in this current business model. That's kind of more of an advanced technique in accounting with expensing large-scale equipment options. So I could bake that in as another expense category and then make it a special expense and do depreciation on it, but that's a whole nother ballpark of calculation. So you have depreciation of equipment, you have equipment that's been depreciated within the assets, how much is that still worth, right? And then you have things like that. So that's like within assets. If you have like land, right? Or if you have, this would be like also like accounts. I think it's called accounts receivable, right? Where like this is pending, like income into you, like IOUs. If someone owes you money, that is an asset because you can go after that person via court and claim that money. I think accounts receivable is an asset. Is accounts receivable an asset on the balance sheet? Yes, accounts receivable is an asset on the balance sheet, right? Because you're owed money in the form of value. And so if someone wants to value your business, well, they need to take into account how much money you're also owed or credited or debited, right? Or whatever. So liabilities, right? This would be things like accounts payable, right? How much money do you currently owe, right, to someone else? Like debts, right? Any leases you're on, right? Any like things that you're on the hook for over time, or like things that you're liable for, that kind of stuff. And then that, the sum of those basically generate your owner's equity, which is basically how much value, overarching value, is within like the company, apart from these liabilities. These are going to be a negative amounts, right? They're going to reduce from positive amounts. So if you have an overarching positive owner's equity, your business is healthy and you're happy. But if you have a negative owner's equity, obviously you're not doing too hot. That's just a very simple kind of go about it. But where'd my, there you go. But yeah, so it's just ALOE. That's an easy way to think about it for the balance sheet, right? All right, you guys, thank you so much for being here and joining me. Please leave a like on the stream if you would be so kind. I really, really appreciate you guys hanging out with me and just hanging out and working alongside me. Please leave a subscribe if you're interested in networking in the future and coming back to the streams in the future. I really, really appreciate it. We didn't go up any subs today, but that's okay. I think YouTube's really, really not pushing our stuff anymore because I turned off the super chat stuff, and ever since I did that, it's kind of started to go downhill. I think it wants me to enable the super chats, but I really don't want to because YouTube charges like a 30% fee, and then Apple will also charge a 30% fee if it's purchased through the App Store and used through the YouTube app. So it's like a 50% fee taken off of your guys' donos, which is honestly a scam to you guys. So I'm kind of against it in all honesty, because I don't want you guys to be wasting your money paying company fees when your money was trying to go to someone you're supporting. So, and just an ethical standpoint, I kind of disagree with that. So that's why I did turn it off. But yeah, it's interesting that I think YouTube has been fighting back against it, though. Anywho, I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me and joining me today. Tim says, that was a big concern all season for me. Is Duke freshman going to fold against the 7th year PhD students? Yeah, is the Duke freshman going to fold against the balding dads out there? Anywho, thank you guys so much for joining me. We streamed for just under 2.5 hours today. We completed the income statement portion of our small business manager for our CS50X final project. It is a really, really cool project where we take an inventory expenses and transact those inventory items to generate an income statement for the business. And then we will work on the balance sheet tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for being here. We are one step closer to being done, almost there. We're about 90% there, and then once I submit the project as a working, solid working version, then I'll open up to open source and we can polish up all of the bugs and add more features together as a stream and as a group. And I think it'll be a lot of fun. But thank you guys so much for being here and hanging out with me. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.